Well, what to say about this? This is unfortunately not, in one way, too surprising, but also far too common or to see, especially now. In the lead up to, of course, the Brexit referendum and even the referendum period itself, whenever Northern Ireland was brought up, particularly by the Remain side of, well, how are you going to solve this Northern Ireland issue? Because as you can see, this has become an issue since Brexit, and we'll get into what's happened just in a moment. But the Leave side was always Northern Ireland is not going to be an issue because we, at the time, was their position was that we are going to remain in the single market and customs union, and this Northern Ireland issue is not going to be an issue. But of course, as you have been seeing through essentially Lord Frost's tenure as the Brexit minister, and now obviously passed over to Liz Truss, this has been anything but a very simple situation. But as I've said multiple times, the UK government could solve this with a stroke of a pen by actually saying, okay, we're going to rejoin the single market customs union. Easy done, job done. And by the way, before anyone else says, oh, we won't let you back in or anything like that, there is no politician out there saying that Britain cannot do that. A lot of the countries in the EU are actually still in favor of us joining. Sorry to say that, but it's true. So this does become a very serious problem because obviously this does come at potential violent flashpoints here and in and around this. We've seen not too long ago some very, very serious riots, not by like the Republicans, but by the Unionists, which are again on the wanting to remain part of the UK side. But even if you did achieve Irish unification, as a lot of people says, oh, this is somehow going to solve the problem, it's not, because those DUP people, those unionists, aren't suddenly just going to disappear. If anything, the onus to try and solve this sectarian violence becomes not a UK issue anymore. It becomes an Irish government issue anymore. So the problem, and so who can actually try and solve this problem, just shifts over to them. And given the fact that the majority of the government currently in Ireland especially is Sinn Féin, and of course certainly rising in the polls, do you really think that people like the DUP and other unionists are going to want to join a Sinn Féin government? It's unfortunately not going to end well, but trust me, it's certainly a unification issue that certainly does in some way need to be resolved and need to be addressed before you can even ask that issue of should we be having a border poll and reuniting Ireland. Certainly an issue that desperately needs to be asking, certainly from the not only in Northern Ireland, but of course the Republic of Ireland as well. But of course, we've got to get onto this now because, of course, this very issue has led to a collapse in the power sharing agreement in Stormont, which is, again, one of the key fundamental foundation pieces of the Northern Ireland Peace Agreement. And, of course, this could potentially lead to early elections. There is obviously one coming up in May, but, of course, what then happens after this, yada, 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 it becomes a massive snowball. And all this, of course, is caused by Brexit. And, of course, as I've said, easiest way to solve this, rejoin the single market, rejoin the customs union. But, of course, our government doesn't want to do that at the moment. But before we do get into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And, of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and one after link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So this comes from the Belfast Telegraph this morning. The title of Stormont Collapse Fails to Make the Front Page News of Any UK National Newspaper. And I agree, this is a serious issue. And the fact that it hasn't even made front page in the UK is actually quite serious because the consequences of this collapsing are far, far reaching. So resignations have heavily featured on the front pages, pardon me, on the front pages of many of the UK's national newspapers on Friday morning. But there was no sign of what had unfolded in Northern Ireland in recent days. After its agricultural minister, Edwin Poots, on Wednesday, ordered his officials to halt the Irish Sea border checks, on Thursday morning, it was evident the checks were still going ahead, but it wasn't long before there was another headline from another DUP when they announced that First Minister Paul Gavin would be resigning from his post. The move then took effect at midnight, The then Deputy First Minister Michelle O'Neill of Sinn Féin also left her post, again because of the power sharing arrangements around this. That's why. But instead of mentioning this crisis that is currently facing Northern Ireland over the disagreements due to the Northern Ireland Protocol, Jerry Halliwell of the Spice Girls fame was instead grabbing the prime positions on the cover of the Sun newspaper with the headline, "Jerry quits the Spice Girls again." BBC broadcaster Andrea Catherine Wood said on Twitter, "Just in case Northern Ireland had any illusions left about its place in the national news agenda, the collapse of the devolved government in the part of the UK didn't even make the British front pages. It was along with a report on the cost of living crisis affecting people throughout the UK, including Northern Ireland, where there was no energy cap, meaning the cost of living has already here increased." Meanwhile, the Daily Mail reported on the meltdown in Downing Street as 4 of Boris Johnson's closest aides departed. Their front page asked, "Will at least one person leave the lights? Please turn the lights on." The Guardian also said the Prime Minister was hit by the number 10 exodus as 4 aides quit in one day. And even the Daily Mirror in their headline read, "They're all laughing along," with a picture of the front bench politicians, including the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, laughing in the House of Commons as they said that the UK is suffering from the worst financial squeeze in over 30 years. And I think that's it. Yeah, we are. So this isn't in any way, shape, or form going in a very good direction. It really, really isn't. And the fact that such a very crucial thing has not been mentioned. I mean, you've got to remember, it wasn't that too long ago that we were seriously worried about not only against sectarian violence, not only spilling out into the streets of, again, Northern Ireland, but indeed into the rest of the UK as well. This should be a front page issue, and it should be brought to a lot of people's attention. This is being directly caused and a cause of Brexit by the very deal that Boris Johnson and even a lot of the Brexiteers, even the DUP themselves, signed up for and said, "This is a fantastic deal. Look at it, how wonderful it is." And yeah, just doing a double check. At this time last year, they were still saying how good it was. I think we were, maybe a month or two away at this point last year from them saying, "Oh no, this is a terrible deal. This is a terrible deal. What have you done?" But at this point last year, they were still shouting from the rooftops how amazing this deal was because it got Brexit done without considering the consequences for places like Northern Ireland. And now we see, or at least saw last week, essentially the Brexiteers just try and allow the DUP to try and do their dirty work for them and just trash the Northern Ireland Protocol that's again put in place. That again puts the border sort of in the Irish Sea. And we've said this time, I don't know how many times we've said this on this channel, but no Brexiteer can answer this question. If you can't have a border in the Irish Sea, where can you have one? Because you can't have one between, the North of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, because that would break other international treaties. Where do you have it? The simple answer is to instead just have an invisible one, like we do like we had in the single market and customs union. That would again solve this issue overnight. Of course, a lot of other people again are going to call, well, maybe it's time we look at reunification. And while again, you can certainly have that conversation, I'm not going to stop anyone saying that they can or can't have that conversation. There are consequences again for reunification. There are a lot of ignorant people out there who just somehow think that if Northern Ireland, becomes again part of the Republic of Ireland, that all this is just going to be solved overnight. But it's not. These people who are currently rioting and up against the Northern Ireland Protocol are not the Republicans, they're the Unionists. They're the people who want to remain part of the United Kingdom. And if you get a unification, that's still a very, very significant number of people in the north of Ireland that still want to remain part of the UK. Do you think they're not going to start, voicing their concerns? Because even if they rejoin Northern Ireland, I think in their, obviously proportional representative parliament, they would gain, I think, something around, I think it's 20 to 22 or 23% or something like that. So that's quite a significant portion that they're going to have in a Republic of again a Republic of Ireland national parliament. So they're not going to go away. And then, if they do feel like they're being ignored or anything like that, you hope obviously it doesn't turn to violence. But just as history's very recent history has shown, in like the past couple of months, they have been prepared to riot and again commit acts of violence against the Northern Ireland Protocol. Who's to say that they would not do the same against a newly reunited, Irish government? It's entirely possible. So don't think that reunification is, the be all end all. But neither is of course the joining the single market and customs union. That will probably also have consequences further down the line as well. So, it's not going to end well, unfortunately, this. But this is definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. There could obviously lead to an early election. And again, depending on how that plays out, could also have severe or consequences, especially for Northern Ireland and again, the future for peace in Northern Ireland. And it's very, very worrying, the fact that not a lot of people seem to be paying attention to this. But there you go. Like I say, I am even aware myself. Obviously, a lot of things have been happening, of course, with Boris Johnson at the moment, and still going on at the moment, again, at the time of doing this. But don't worry, we will definitely be keeping an eye on this and see how this situation develops. But I can't really predict how this will go, unfortunately. I would love to say everything's going to be fine, but history has shown, unfortunately, that may not be the case. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a motivational link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can always buy me coffee. And of course, thank you everyone else for supporting the channel those ways. So, as always, we'll see you all next time.